So I just finished The Outer Wilds the other day, and while it's still fresh in my brain, I wanted to talk a little bit about it. This is totally unscripted. You can happily watch this while doing something else. I hope you do while you're cooking yourself a nice meal or roasting some marshmallows on an open fire. Outer Wilds was hard. I really respect it for what it did though, because Outer Wilds is one of those games that like stays with you. And I was thinking about aspects of the game literally for days on end at times. I would go a couple days between playthroughs, and it was literally like burning itself inside of me as I tried to figure out why I liked it. And honestly, a lot of the times I hated it. It was not fun for me. It was a real reckoning. I shy away from playing games that are really difficult. The thing is, like, Outer Wilds is not, it's not difficult in the sense that like everything that you ever need is right there for you in your ship and your map, in your rumor mode, but you can take a look at what's available to you, where you have to go, the question marks. You go one place, suddenly you're somewhere else, suddenly you've got more clues for another world, and suddenly, you know, you are uncovering a bunch of mysteries. I guess I learned that as an experiential gamer, I love to play games that come out, and I like to play games that feel easy. It's interesting because scientifically speaking, this is a really interesting game because there's a lot of truth-based aspects of this. How physics works in this world was true to life and accurate by Annapurna Games and Mobius. And so it's so interesting because it just was so hard.
That's what she said.
To that extent, it wasn't necessarily fun, but what it did do is it caused me to think about the way I was playing video games and the way I look at video games. Because we live in a time period where, and this is probably one of the reasons why it makes it so special, is that we live in a time where you go from point A to point B, and there's the icon, and you go there, and then you see like whatever's around you, and you see the scenery, and you're kind of like, okay, cool, this is good, I'm going there. You know, all MMOs do this, and a lot of RPGs, I'm thinking like Assassin's Creed, of course they have the option to turn it off, but there's a lot of that sort of, I don't even want to call it hand holding so much as just like you're supposed to go from here to there and that's it. Outer Wilds, you just like start, you walk around Timber Hearth, maybe you'll figure out what to do, maybe you'll read the explanation for ghost matter, maybe you won't, and then you go into the cavern, you repair the ship, it teaches you, you know, the tutorial teaches you how to do certain things. Other than that, you're like in the game. You get in the ship and you take off. And literally you have like 6 planets to explore. That's the experience. You go from place to place, connect the dots, and then you find the answer. And it was brain racking at times. And it was so redundant at times. And I hated it because I didn't know what I was doing. And so I had to do all this like scientific process, which is so difficult for me as an emotional connected singer, artist, creative who like all I want to do is just like have emotional connections. And I got more connected to the game as I learned about the Numai, as I learned about their journey to the center of the universe, to the eye of the universe, to uncover what they were hoping to find, and their whole journey in getting stuck and landing in that tangle in the bramble and meeting our fellow astronauts along the way. Those are the moments that stood out to me. And those are the moments that kept me wanting to keep exploring. I loved reading about the Nomai. It was an awful experience, but getting to the Quantum Moon, even though I really, at that point, I'd already gotten the warp core and I'd already gotten the coordinates, I was ready to just get the fuck out of there and just end the game. And yet, getting to the core and meeting that Nomai, the last living Nomai, entire civilization wiped out when the asteroid, when the interloper brought in that ghost matter, that is the last living Nomai. The timer was counting down. I knew I was running out of time. That 22-minute timer was ticking down. I heard the music. I was scrambling, trying to grab all these different things so that I could communicate. That is what let me connect to this game. But like the puzzles and trying to figure things out and like experimentation and staying curious on my journey, I really struggled. To the point that I felt incredibly stupid because it was just like, oh my God, like, and that's why I've always avoided games like Myst, because I'm just like, no, I'm good. There were days where time would just stand still and I was literally thinking about the game, sometimes with dread. And then I would have these moments of incredible discovery. Like when I finally figured out how something worked, then my brain just like opened up. You know, you saw something that would help you get to the other side, or when I finally figured out how the black hole, white hole dynamic worked, When I finally got to the Tower of Quantum Knowledge, that was so cool. When I went underground in Timber Hearth and I realized that there was a whole underwater system in the mountains and in the geyser, that was so cool. When you jump off of like a platform from Brittle Hollow trying to connect to those like travel ways, and you know you're gonna end up in that black hole, but somehow you still make it and you cross to the other side. Like, that was so satisfying. And it is an experience that I have never had in a game, and likely won't ever have in a game again. And of course, the music then is a really interesting thing to talk about in a game that basically doesn't have any music. The music that we hear at Timber Hearth is gentle and warm, and it really feels like home. It feels like safety. It feels like that campfire wherever your friends are. Out in the solar system, when you have your little tracker and you're looking for the astronauts, and somehow you match up 2 or 3 of them, and you hear that. I mean, it's just, that's gorgeous. I was really enraptured too by when the music would kick in the hanging village of the Nomai. This melancholic, sad sound that just came out of thin air, seemingly. Those people died. That civilization died. When you go to the different escape vessels, the one in the Tangled Shore especially was just, I mean, it's so sad. And the music evokes that feeling of sadness every time you're around the Nomai. The strange dread you feel when the sun reaches supernova, and you know the sun is about to explode, and you know that whatever you're doing, you better hurry up and get it done, because that loop is about to start again. Wondering, well, okay, is there a way to end this loop? And the thing that's extremely interesting to me about that is that there's actually a whole song hidden the entire game, which my playthrough was about a little under 20 hours. And the entire time, there is this music that's actually there waiting for you, but you gotta pull that core out. You gotta pull out that warp core, and suddenly you hear the full version of that song. That was an incredible moment. Finally getting into the core, hearing that music, not hearing any music when you were approaching the anglers on your way to the vessel. Usually in horror games, there's music everywhere to announce something scary. But here we play with the opposite. We play with no music and how that's supposed to feel. And silence and only the sound of your breath is a shocking form of music, not dissimilar to 4 minutes and 33 seconds by John Cage, where the music is actually everything you hear for those 4 minutes and 33 seconds. It's no different in something like Outer Wilds. And then you reach the end and you realize that the world, the universe, the eye of the universe creates a new universe, a new galaxy, I guess, or whatever, based on your memories of your friends, based on that music. And 14.3 billion years kicks in. You see that final blast of the explosion, you die, and then that music kicks in. And Outer Wilds has always somehow been able to make me incredibly emotional without knowing the game. 14.3 billion years has always made me emotional, but I connected it to the life and death of my father, who died almost 2 years ago. That music does actually connect us to life and death. And I think that the use of instruments here that is very pared down, a banjo, percussion, whistling, a kazoo, they're all very human sounding. They're all very honest. And I think that that actually highlights and accentuates the sensation of loss at the end. It's a deeply human story, and it makes you feel small. Existentially speaking, there's so much to think about when we think about life and death. I found myself throughout the weeks of playing this game looking up at the sky and recognizing how small I was, or imagining what it would be like if I could take off right from where I was in a terribly controllable ship and fly around and visit the other systems, and how that would play out for me. It was an incredibly difficult, bordering on terrible experience. And yet I'm so incredibly grateful that I got to experience it, because I know that it shifted the way I'm going to play games moving forward. It shifted the way I'm going to look at games moving forward. When I have to go from A to B, I might stop and digitally smell the roses. I might look around on my way from point A to point B. Even the way I'm talking to my family is different because of this game. Because we're all going to return to something. Everything will be born anew. Life and death, it's the cycle that we all will face. And in its own way, there's a beauty in that. It's terrible, painful, life is hard, life is terrible. But life is also gorgeous. Life is as comfortable and as beautiful as sitting next to our friend in a terrible place, listening to them play the banjo. And somehow, even though you are in hell itself, there's still a little glimmer of goodness. So yeah, it was a great game. Terrible, terrible experience, but I loved it. It was really lovely. And if you want to check out that playthrough, check out these links. I'll talk to you later. Bye.